Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Time for another live edition. And we are live. Yes, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, you can see my screen. Hopefully, you can hear me clearly. I've got some folks coming in already, checking out the comments. I appreciate all of the nice feedback. Appreciate you guys joining me on this live edition of the Node Investor. So let's take a look at the charts. I want to talk some news, some recent FUD and changes that's been happening. It's been a week, man. It's been one of those weeks. What can I say? But first off, Bitcoin. hey. Node investor. All right. I'm going to stop messing around here. California checking in. We got people from all over. HODL times are hard. Yes, indeed. There is no doubt about that. But I will answer some questions. I will take a look at some charts. I will ask you some questions. And let's go from there. So coin market cap, man, almost $300 billion. We're nearing here some pretty low levels here. $323 billion. Yesterday was a rough day. We're seeing a little bit of a bounce attempt, but not a whole lot in terms of upside confirmation yet. And so Bitcoin, around $8,000. Ethereum, $600. Litecoin, $160. And so you can see it's pretty much red across the board. Altcoins taking it in even harder than Bitcoin, as is often the case, and usually the case when Bitcoin goes down pretty big, the alts will take it even harder. So that's where it's at. There was one green. Digix DAO seems to have its own thing there on the side. Always, it's kind of marching to its own tune. But you can see it's just not a pretty picture in the last 24 hours. Everybody knows that. We've all been feeling the pain watching this thing. I did a video yesterday in terms of trading. There's not a whole lot that I've been doing here for the last few days, week, just because the momentum is not in our favor in terms of going long. Now, if you're going short, then there's been plenty of good short trades to be had. But if you're going long, you're fighting the trend. And that is one of the most important aspects when it comes to trading and even investing, intermediate long term, is you want to go with the trend. And so if the trend is in your favor, then you're going long. If the trend is not and you're going short, then you look at the short playbook. And when things are choppy, it sucks for everybody. So just either hodl or stay out, right? And that's usually the way it goes. But we'll get more people joining here. I've actually, you know what? I need to go on Twitter and post that I'm live. So let's see here. I want to talk some of the news that I was doing here. I'm alive. Hopefully you guys can find the link. But let me see here. I've got some other folks here on my Slack that I was going to do. All right, let's get to it. So first off, some news. One of the funniest ones. So there was a hearing yesterday with the some of the financial subcommittee there, and one of the most I guess anti-crypto comments came from California Representative Brad Sherman, who calls cryptocurrencies a crock, and he basically said, here was his comment here about it only helps people, a few guys sitting in their pajamas telling their wives they're going to be millionaires. It was like, okay, this is another good example of the tendency of people that either, one, do not understand blockchain or crypto at all and are usually clueless about it, have very strong opinions against it, or two, the people that are most threatened by it for one reason or another have very strong opinions against it. And this politician probably falls into both camps. One, clearly clueless. He says, it has a negative effect on society as a whole because only terrorists and money launderers and anybody who is anti-dollar are going to use this thing. And it's like, okay, You're probably right about most of those, probably wrong about most of those except for one. And so it's kind of interesting to see that he was so anti crypto. And of course, anybody from finance, banking, and even government, right? Anything that is threatened by the decentralized nature of this technology and what it could do is going to be having bad things to say about it. However, you had somebody on the other side, Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer, and he was taking the other side of the argument and kind of saying, hey, guys, let's not throw a blanket on this and just kind of stifle innovation and capital access and all of that. So good comments coming out of Mr. Emmer. And so it was just kind of a, this was the third hearing here in the United States with some of the legislatures talking crypto. We've had CFTC and SEC, we've had Senate, and now this one. And so it's getting attention, it's getting regulation, it's going to get information. And, at the end of the day, this is not anti-Bitcoin. Most of these discussions center around ICOs and securities and raising capital and scams and frauds. And so I can totally understand that. And that's really where the concern has come, right? It's not, oh no, Bitcoin is here, it's going to take over the world. Most of the complaints and the concerns have been around some of the scams and some of the ICOs and circumventing some of the system of regulation, financial, whether you agree with it or not. And so that's that. And that goes to another thing, right? So crypto has now been announced that it will be banned on Google. And so Google has taken the step just like Facebook did a couple of months ago, and they will be banning crypto ads starting in June. And so let's go to the charts here. Some people say maybe that was the cause of the fall. I don't necessarily believe that was the cause of the fall, but I do find it interesting that they announce these things during market sell-offs. It's almost like it's more palatable to say, yeah, you should ban crypto ads when the market is really bad. Because if they would have announced we're going to ban crypto ads when the market was going parabolic in December, there would have been riots. Everybody would have said, no, don't take away my crypto ads. But, when the market's in pain, they seem to announce it. I think the Facebook one was somewhere around here. It was like the end of January. And it was already in free fall mode, kind of, it was falling down. So that was not the catalyst. And then same here with Google, right? Google announces they're going to start banning, even though it's not effective yet. It's, they've just announced that they will do it. And market was already pulling in. Did that add fuel to the fire? Of course. Just like we've seen before, when some of the news, some of the FUD comes out after prices have come down, of course, it adds fuel to the fire. It adds more uncertainty. It adds more, more fear to the overall market sentiment. And so that's what it is. Now, Twitter, that's the question, right? Is Twitter going to ban it? Now, we know they've been banning certain accounts and usually the wrong ones, but that one's interesting because Jack Dorsey is also the founder chairman of Square, and Square has been pro Bitcoin, and they recently have added some testing in buying and selling Bitcoin. They have also been funding some other companies. There was a big story here on CoinDesk earlier today around Lightning Network and some of that. And Dorsey was one of his funds is behind some of the venture capital backing of this company, Lightning Labs. And so that's a good thing, right? And so that's going to be interesting. Will Twitter ban crypto ads? Now, granted, Twitter, it's not as heavy of a marketing platform. It is a marketing platform, but they don't have as many ads, very targeted ads as, say, Facebook and Google, right? I mean, they're much more targeted and prevalent. And so it's going to be interesting to see if Twitter decides to do anything along the banning crypto ads. But this was a pretty good piece of news today. Lightning Labs announced the beta version of this Lightning software, and it's supposed to be one of the better ones out there. It's going to really help the transaction. So a lot of good things are happening. And keep in mind, Lightning Network, this is a protocol, right? So this is open source, and this is trying to establish, the new off-chain transactions going to help speed up and really accelerate some of the scalability of the crypto markets and some of Bitcoin and Litecoin right now. So good stuff coming out. This was good news. It's very technical, but very positive in terms of the crypto markets and just some of the development that happens behind the scenes, which, we're just looking at the charts and we're seeing the market and it's coming in. But just like we saw during the last bear market, during that pullback, we saw significant improvements to the ecosystem. We saw wallets and we saw a lot of things coming out and new companies and startups being formed during the quote unquote, the big bear market of, 14 and 15 and even 16. And we're seeing the same thing. Development is just not going to stop regardless of the price. It's not going to pull back. It's not going to, all of that. Sure, it's not as frothy as it was a couple months ago, but blockchain developers are probably some of the highest in demand developers out there right now. And there's just going to be more and more of this because this is truly a technological shift, very much like we saw in the 90s with the internet, right? And so it's not going to go away. Crypto is not dead, regardless of what people are saying. And so I just want to remind you guys, let's take a big picture view of the charts here. And yes, they're not pretty. Yes, they're ugly. I get all that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But let's keep in mind, prices are where they were in November. And unless you bought at, the very top, right? Anybody who was investing back here is still way up. And in terms of where we were at this time last year, I mean, Bitcoin was hovering around $1,000. Ethereum was hovering around $50. And so we have had a massive move up in 2017, and we're, consolidating a lot of that and feeling the backside of this parabolic move. But we are still very much ahead of where we were even just a year ago, even just 6 months ago, right? And so you got to keep that in mind, guys. It is painful, right? We've come off a lot in percentage terms, but you got to remember that last couple of months of the year were a parabolic move. So we're down about 60% at this point. We were down further here at the dip in February. Could we go lower? We'll take a look at those charts, but we need a period of consolidation, another accumulation zone, a new base that I've been talking about before the market has another significant leg up. But does it go all the way back to 1,000, right? Does it go all the way back to sub 1,000? I really doubt that, guys. And so crypto is not dead. It's here to stay. The question is, how long before the next big run up and all that fun stuff? And, we're in for a good period of consolidation, I think. And there's going to be bounces along the ways, good tradable rallies. And these markets are volatile by nature. And so I think they will remain good trading markets regardless of where they go in terms of the longer term stuff. So let's get to the charts here. So let me close out some of these channels. Oh, if you haven't seen, so this guy is not the bad guy that I was talking about. This guy's actually really smart, Peter Van Valkenburg, and I would check him out. I actually put a link in the description. He did a interview on Bloomberg regarding cryptocurrency regulation. Super smart guy. I would check that out. It's a pretty good little short video, but there's a good article here talking about this. And some of the regulation and some of the challenges they're having, right? At the end of the day, is it a commodity? Is it a security? What makes it a security? When is it a utility? And all that. And that's kind of the discussion being made right now. So let's close some of these out. Let's get to the charts real quick before I get going. If you haven't already, go to noteinvestor.com for more information. And for those of you that are inclined to learn more a little bit about the charts and technical analysis, I've got a course. I know a lot of you guys have already taken it. Thank you for the feedback, for the support. $49. It's about 4 hours of video. I cover different charts, and it takes you from basics. So if you're not sure how to read candlestick, all the way to some of the patterns I watch. And then the most important part at the end, I've added a new video talking about money management, stops, scaling in, position sizing, all that fun stuff. And then for those of you that are new, Cryptocurrency 101, wallets, basics, how to buy it, how to sell it, how to transfer it, all that fun stuff. So noteinvestor.com. So that's it. Let's get to the charts. So Bitcoin, this is the daily chart of BTC. We are still playing out this double top pattern that broke down here. So the neckline was in and around that 93, 9400 area. And I mentioned this a couple times already. If you do a measured move, and this is never 100%, so this is just kind of the first type of projection, right? And so you take that down, and that was projecting to around $7,400, $7,500 on this double top, which if you look at the next support level, the first one that I was watching was at 8K level. I mentioned that in my stream yesterday. If we broke down, or not my stream, but my video, if we broke down from that 87, 86 low, most likely we would go to 8K relatively quickly because there wasn't a ton of support below that. And that's what happened. We broke down. We very quickly went down to 8K, and then overnight undercut that. And here we are trying to bounce, trying to hold that 8K level. Below that, the next big support level is around that 74, 7,500, which is also the downside target of that double bottom. And so, or double top, excuse me. And so that's kind of the next two levels I'm looking at. We're in the middle of that zone here. We've been trading in and around that area here for the last, maybe 12 hours or so. And so that's what I'm watching now is, well, let's see how this plays out here in this little bit of a zone. The thing to keep in mind, the RSI is only at 34. And if, once we're in a big downtrend like this, it tends to bottom out around 30 or just below. And so that's kind of the big flag for me right now is it's not quite there yet. So we could see some more downside. Perhaps we get a bounce first and then see another leg down. In the near term, we are a little bit stretched to the downside. Here at the max, right, it's kind of hard to see. Let me change that to blue. But here at the max, the prices were down 15% or so from the shortest term 10 EMA, which I follow. And so that's a lot, right? And it generally tends to bounce from that. If you go to the 4-hour chart, not quite as stretched just because it's been this slow grind down. We base out and then another leg down. And the 4-hour did hit some oversold levels yesterday and then here recently bouncing again. Let's see, but there's no upside confirmation yet on this. So that's what I'm watching on that daily chart is that RSI. MACD is certainly rolling over. On the daily chart, though, the MACD tends to be a little bit more of a lagging indicator, so I don't use it as much in terms of crossover. I use it on the shorter term timeframes, but not so much here on the daily chart. But if we break below this 7,500 level, then the big test is going to be the lows we saw in February. And that's a big range because those had some long wicks there and got pretty wild there at the lows. But man, that's you're talking sub 7 down to 6. So in that 6K range or so, that's going to be the area to be watching if we break down. I'm thinking we see a little bit of a bounce first. And so maybe we get another green day in there. And then we'll have to see if we can establish a low, another double bottom, that sort of action. The best case, or the bullish case, best case is we just go straight up from here. Bullish case would be if we bottom out here and then go up higher and then test and do another higher low and start to form a new base in and around here. Because what that'll translate into is a big higher low established versus that low there. And so it would really start to change the tone. Now, granted, we had the big run and we're pulling in, but if after the pull in, we see strong volume come in higher than we saw down here, that would be very positive in terms of the bigger picture because it could potentially begin to signal that, hey, this is going to be the new accumulation zone. Doesn't necessarily mean we just go straight back up, and I don't think we will. But I am looking for at some point in time, there will be a price point or a price range, and it's generally going to be, kind of wide, but there will be some sort of price range where it will just kind of sit in that range for a couple of months. But it will be the new base, the new accumulation zone that will set up another leg higher ultimately. But where that floor, that range is yet to be seen. Could this be it? Maybe, right? But at this point, this is just a very nice, very strong bounce we're pulling in. If we break below the current levels, right, or the current low and establish a new lower low, this was a pretty strong low here around that 6K or so. The next really strong base is that 5K mark, right? And so that was the last real big base from which we broke out from that had that big rally. That was the strong September low, and below that was a 3K. So those are the two big round numbers, right? 3K, 5K, obviously anywhere in between that. If we went down to 5K from the top, that would be about 75% from the exact top. 3K takes you down 85% from the all-time highs. That lines up with the pullback, the magnitude of pullback that we saw on the first big bubble in 2014. Does it have to go down the exact same amount? Of course not. Every market's going to be a little different. They will play out similarly, but they will be different. And so that's kind of the two big levels to be looking at. And sure, it could finish anywhere in between there. But in terms of support bases, those are the levels to be watching. So one day at a time, folks. That's the name of the game here. We've had a very nice tradable rally here off the lows. Another little good leg up. No doubt, though, these last week and a half or so have been pretty rough seas. And it's kind of weird. I mean, how long ago was that? It's crazy to think that it was only 9-10 days ago, and we were knocking on the door of 12K. And here we are testing 8,000 again. So that's been quite the drop very fast in the last 10 days. So that's it on BTC here. Let's take a closer look at the charts here in the very short term and to see if there is any kind of development on a bounce or sort of play to the upside near term. Like I said, we're a little bit stretched to the downside, so I do expect a little bit of a bounce, but that's all it could end up being, is a bounce into resistance, which is going to now be the floor that it broke down from around 87, 8,800. That's going to be the new test. Let me do a fib here before I zoom in, or actually, let's go to the 4 hours. Taking a drink of water here. Sorry about that. All right, so looking at the 4-hour chart, let me move this over just a little bit more. So this is kind of the next resistance zone to really be watching, right? Because that was the level that really was holding and broke down from. And right now, there's just no signs of a turnaround, right? We tried bouncing pretty good here. There was a strong 4-hour bar. Low volume, though, so there was not a lot of confirmation there. We basically just bounced right into that moving average, and it's pulling in here a little bit. Volume has been pretty heavy on this recent selling. Once we broke from that resistance or that support there, it very quickly moved down. Let me go to another exchange, see how it looks on, because Coinbase sometimes can have some odd volume patterns. So here it is on Bitstamp. You can see this was my descending triangle pattern that I posted a couple days ago, and that apparently played out. So let me clear my notes here. And yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of upside bouncing yet. What would be good to see here today, if we wanted to establish a little bit of a low from which to bounce, is we've set up, the first low here, which was that wick around 70, let's call it 7,700. It's just below, but let's call it 77. We've rallied. This one shows a little bit stronger volume on the buy, and then we're pulling in now. If we can create another double bottom type of low, or even a higher low, then that would be good. But ultimately, it needs to start closing above that level. So until we get back into the $8,300 range, it's still, in my opinion, the downtrend. There's no signs or no confirmation yet that that's going to be the low. And so that's what I'm watching here. Near term, very near term, guys. This is just in terms of a potential bounce bottoming action, is right around that $8,300 mark. If we can close above that, that'll also get us above that declining 10 EMA. And then we could potentially set up a test to go up to the next leg, $8,600, $8,700 or so, in and around that level. Let me see here. Yeah, and that's the thing, Mt. Gox, right? That's still out there. The selling. Do I use Elliott waves? I don't have anything against it. It's just personally something that, I looked into, I tried a little bit. It's just, everyone's a little different, and you kind of find your, the things that work for you the most, the indicators that you agree with most, or that help your style of trading the most. And I just found that Elliott is just not for me personally. I don't have anything against it, but it's just not my cup of tea there. So let me do a fib on this here. How far down here? So if we do a bounce play off of this low, the first fib level is going to take you around 85, which, that's not too far off of that first resistance zone. And then that's assuming that was the low, but a bounce would be into 85, 86. The next level up would be 9,000 in terms of potential resistance on that. So those are the levels to watch here near term, guys. There is, again, no confirmation to the upside yet. If we look at the hourlies, it's trying, right? Very short term, and this will translate into 4-hour bars if it starts to get some more upside. But man, look at that selling volume down here. It's just been pretty rough so far. So that's what it is. Brandon, hey, you made it. Sorry, man. I saw your question on the link. So thank you guys for posting the link out there. Someone was asking about that. All right, so let's see here. Fractal upon fractal. Yeah, that's what we're seeing here. I'm going through some comments here, guys, just checking out what we're seeing here. All right. I think I'm up to speed. So that's we've kind of put you're drunk. We put a little bit of a near-term floor, but there's no upside confirmation yet. We're in a little bit of a range here, so that's the level to watch today. We'll see if we can get some more upside. It's trying, right? You can almost argue, hey, that's a mini inverted head and shoulders on the hourlies. I would not be against claiming that here. That certainly could be the pattern forming out on the very short term. And if that plays out, so then you're saying on a breakout, if we get above that 83, 8400 level on this pattern, then that projects out to around 9K. Okay, so I don't think any of us would complain about that if we saw 9K here in the next few hours, but we'll see how this plays out. So that's the way I view the world, my friends. I'm watching the charts. I'm always looking for patterns, always trying to anticipate how could this play out, upside, downside, short term, long term, trading, hodling, all that good stuff, and we'll go from there. So I've mentioned, share it, maybe not. Maybe I'll wait. I was going to talk about the indicator I mentioned yesterday, but let's do some more charts first. All right, so let's go through double bottom on 3-day. I don't know. I'll come back to that. I think I've covered Bitcoin enough for you folks. Let's go through some. Where's my bull indicator? Yeah, you guys are asking about it already. Check it out. I'll go to the other chart here. So let's do it real quick. This is something I'm developing right now. It's I've been modeling it over the last few days, really testing it out. It's working really nicely, to be honest. It works better, obviously, in trending markets than it does in choppy markets. But right now, let me clear my notes. This is a bullish momentum index, right? And it's like any indicator, you don't use it solely by itself. You don't trade off any signal by itself. Use it more as a secondary thing. Price and volume action always come first. I've mentioned that in all of my videos and all of my training. Price and volume first. Then I use moving averages and then other indicators to confirm what I believe I'm seeing in the price action. That being said, this is a little bit of a bullish momentum index. It just tells you how much in control the bulls and the bears are, vice versa. And there's 3 pieces of information to look at on this indicator. The first is just the area. Let me hide some of this stuff to make it easy to read first, right? So this is the index right here. Swings between 0 and 100. Bull zone is basically around 65 to 70. Anything above that is kind of confirmation that we're seeing that. And then the bear zone is below the 40 mark. And so I've been testing some different algorithms here, and it's kind of neat the way this works, because when you see the let me go back here, right? There's 3 things. I've got some crossovers. There's some small letters at the top of my chart. You can see this is kind of a warning signal. This is a short signal. And on the shorter term time frames, it works really well for trading. Here's a short signal and a warning signal. You can see that called that short pretty well there. This is buy confirmation, another buy confirmation, another short signal here. And so that's how I'm using it. It works really well on the shorter term time frames, especially if you're doing some day trading and stuff like that. But I'll be sharing that a little bit more in terms of what the rankings are, right? So if we use this today, you can see here the bull momentum index is basically putting the daily chart at 10, and the daily chart's always the last one to turn. Obviously, it works. The 12-hour, I was really watching this here. Still short term. Everything right now is in the red. So no bullish action yet. Hourly's turned here a little while ago. So maybe that one's the first sign to show some upside potential momentum here. So this issued a buy right here off the low, and then we're seeing a little bit of a warning here. So if this continues higher, that'll negate that, but pretty interesting. And so gave it a shot. All right, let's go. Where do we go here? You guys want to do Neo? Let's take a look at the Neo chart. Neo, I hate to say it, has been looking pretty weak here as of late, and continues to look a little bit weak here. Try to maybe form a double bottom. Let me go. This is Neo USD. Ever since it broke that 120 mark or so, that was it, man. And somebody was asking me about Neo a while back, and I told them that's probably the level I'm watching is the 120. And boy, I didn't expect that much of a sell-off after it broke, but since then it's down about 44%, and Neo is excuse me, I'm reading the comments. Yeah, I'll talk more about the index here. But Neo's down here to $66. Holy moly. Neo, it's almost tempting now. I'm like, man, I should just go buy some Neo. Unfortunately here, it's kind of in no man's land. Now it's broken down. It's definitely oversold here on the longer term time frames. You can see the daily is peaking below 30 now. RSI is at 28. We're right at where we were in this big base right here before it broke out to $100. And so it's just not looking pretty here versus BTC, still drifting lower. Again, also reaching some oversold conditions on that daily chart. And so I'm thinking we're getting close, but a lot of these alts have been kind of hitting those levels. And so I'd be cautious. We're definitely going to see a bounce here soon. I mean, it's just oversold on all time frames. Here's the 4-hour, trying to form a little bit of a double bottom on that 4-hour. Whoops. Let me pull that chart up. So potentially trying to form a low here, but there's no strong volume coming in yet to the upside. And so I'd be cautious. I'd be waiting on that and waiting for some more upside confirmation. If you're still holding it, I mean, at this point, if it were me, I mean, I've already taken most of the hits, so I'd probably just wait it and see if we get a bounce here pretty soon. So it's basically coming back down to the lows of that February washout. And so maybe we establish a very big double bottom here and then try to bounce from there. So Neo, Vechain. So Vechain was one of the stronger names as of late for a number of reasons, but just strictly looking at the chart here, Vechain has been acting better than most. And, this is the Vechain BTC chart. And you can see here in the last couple of days, it's basically been in the same range as BTC. So as Bitcoin drops, the USD comparative of Vechain has been coming down as well. But this one is actually one of the first to start turning the corner here. If you look at the daily chart, it had that massive run last year, and here we are, a little bit of a double bottom on that daily chart. You can see, let me zoom in. There's that low, and then there's this wick here, and the breakout point on this double bottom on the daily is right there. And you can see it's basically broken out. It's coming back. It's testing that breakout point, but it's also testing the moving average. So now it's trying to stay above it. If it can hold this level, that'd be very positive for Vechain in terms of maybe shifting the momentum to the upside. But it's also going to have a lot of hurdles to overcome in terms of upside resistance. The first one being, this little zone right here, which it initially tested. I think it would break through that personally. The next one being this zone up here. There's going to be a big wall right there. But from a trading perspective, I mean, that's That's a 30% move higher. If we can clear that, then you're looking at the next, wall, which is the highs up here. So this one's looking pretty good here near term. See if it can continue with this pattern and break to the upside. Once BTC decides to settle out, these are what I look for, right? These relative strength, who's holding up the best. And once BTC decides to settle out, then maybe we can see some more upside. I thought I did Neo BTC. I thought I did both, but let me see here. Neo. So Neo BTC on Bitfinex on all time frames, very much hitting these oversold levels. I'm looking for a bounce. So thank you for the reminder, guys. And right now it's basically right here at this base. This is not a real big base, so this is like a couple of days. There's a real strong base down here, and so that's what I'd be watching if that one breaks down. But you're basically right at the floor of that prior base, and you're hitting some oversold conditions. If you like Neo long term, this may be the place to look at it here. But how far off the highs is this from Bitcoin here? Let's see. This is down only 45%. So it's held up a little bit better than some of the other names. Some of the other names are really rough here, man. Let's go to Cardano. There was one I was watching here, and it broke down. Oh, man, it got smacked. That's why you got to wait, guys. That's why you got to wait. You know what's interesting about Cardano? I was watching this indicator yesterday, and I was looking at Cardano, and then it gave me a sell. And I was thinking maybe Cardano's going to have another leg down, and then it did. So I was like, that's kind of neat the way that was working out. But I was really liking this one. This was setting up here at the lows. I was sitting on my hands, though, not wanting to pick it up just because of the poor action on the BTC side of things. But this was the level to watch. It broke out a lot of good accumulation patterns. But then yesterday, just boom, big volume down. And I do not like big volume reversals. It's usually a big sell signal for me. More at the top than at the bottom, but still not positive here. So got to wait, give this one a little bit more time, see how it looks. Right now, though, the trend is not our friend here, ladies and gentlemen. It's just continuing lower. It really needed to hold that base here. Broke down, unfortunately. There's not a lot of support here until the next big base. Man, are we going to see it go all the way down there? That's really the next big area of support, unfortunately, on this chart. So if it can't hold these lows here, you could see a drop lower. Now look at the RSI on this bad boy. 24 on the daily. That's hitting some pretty extreme levels. Now, potentially, we're going to see a bullish divergence on the RSI here on this 4-hour, but we saw one back here too, and we'll see. Maybe these are signs that it's trying to bottom, and I think it is trying, but until we see that upside confirmation, just got to be patient. Got to wait these out. Let's see here. Let's do the biggies. We'll do Ethereum next, and then Litecoin. Ethereum, $600 Ethereum, coming off an all-time high of around $1,400. Ethereum now is down roughly 50+%. And so looking at this one's been lagging BTC a little bit here. Let's go to the ETH BTC chart here. The last 3 days, you can see it's lagged, or the last week it's lagged, about 5%. So it's dropped with BTC plus a little bit more. If you go to the short-term time frames on the hourlies, on the 4-hour charts, it was looking really good back here. I was liking that action. And then it kind of did a little bit of a double top right into that resistance point where I have the line. And since then, rejected from there. And so now the next thing to watch is, are we going to do another double bottom attempt? And what happens is when you get these floors that get hit and they try to rally and they get hit again, very often, I hate to say it, but very often these floors do not hold the next time around. So got to be careful with that one. This one's the level to watch here versus BTC is right around that 0.073, give or take. That's going to be the level to watch on F. And on the daily, go to the daily, this one is not nearly as oversold as some of those other alts. And so it has room to go if it needs to on the RSI technicals. And when you look at where it's at price-wise right here, look at this right here. It's kind of in the middle of a big leg up, and so there was no pause back here. So there's not a lot of support that was established anywhere along these lines. I mean, the next support zone, if you want to call it that, would be maybe these areas right around here, and that's another about 15% lower from here versus BTC. So got to be a little cautious with ETH right now. Still living below these moving averages, and no sign of a reversal just yet on the USD side. Starting to get on the oversold on the daily, but we're kind of at this little bit of a base below that. Next strong level is 480s, give or take. So $500. Let's see, BTC trying to break out here. Let's go take a look at that one, and I'll keep going here. This one's looking pretty good here on the daily. This daily still has about, what is that? We've got a long time to go on that daily. We still got about 7 hours, 6, 7 hours. So this could turn into a nice little bit of a reversal move. I think we're going to see a balance, a green day at least. And so we'll see. A little bit of an equilibrium pattern forming here on this 4 hour. On the 1 hour, again, got to watch that $8,400 mark. Let's go. Litecoin. Major turn up after tax day. Oh, man. So I met with my accountant the other day. It was worse than I thought. Oh, that was a painful meeting. I mean, I knew I was going to owe money. I usually do, but man, oh, man. It's highway robbery. But I ain't going to complain. All right, so let's see here. Looking at Litecoin. Now, this is one of the few names that kind of are on my short list. Monero was another one. I'll go through that one. But here at the lows, I'm liking the potential reversal action that it's trying to do. And this is one that I will be looking at first when BTC decides to settle out here. And so you can see here in the last day or so, it's really trying to turn the corner. You're seeing the selling trying to evade here, trying to hold off a little bit toward rallying, putting in a low, trying to establish a higher low now here off the lows versus Bitcoin. If you go to the 4-hour charts, we had this low back here, this guy right here, and then they have the most recent low here. And you can say that's a little bit of a bullish divergence on the RSI. And so, there's some positive signs here for the Litecoin. If you look at the daily chart, also positive. Those 2 days here have been some of the highest volume days of recent days, especially this one on Coinbase. Tons of buy volume coming in there. And so that's good news. So I'm liking the way that Litecoin is acting here in the last few days, and especially versus BTC. It's really trying to establish some lows. I mean, look at this chart versus BTC. This is the daily chart. I mean, relatively to some of the other names, right? I mean, it's this much stronger in terms of holding up. And so I like that. I mean, that's positive there. Here it is on Polo. If you go to the 12-hour, I mean, this was a big double top, but it's doesn't have that huge decline, going down 80% like some of these other names. So got to pay attention to Litecoin. Seems to be holding up relatively well. And I think it's going to benefit from some of the developments that we're seeing on the Bitcoin side with Lightning Network and some of that other stuff. It's going to continue to benefit Litecoin as well. So this one's looking pretty good in terms of being on my short list with, the top of my watch list. I don't want to say my short list. I'm not shorting Litecoin. Let's see here. Monero was another one that I was watching here as a potential trying to form a bottom. On the daily, didn't quite to get as oversold, but I'm liking here on the 4 hours. Oops. Let me clear that. On the 4 hours, it was yesterday trying to finally hold. And so I'm going to be paying attention here if this one holds that level there. And you can see on the last 4-hour bar, volume is really starting to decline. And so if this comes in lower, but the volume gets really quiet as it pulls in, that's usually a positive sign. So I'm going to be watching for that, guys. And so Monero, still liking this one all around. Again, the big picture, right, versus BTC. I mean, look at the general direction of this thing is still positive, right, over the last couple of months. And it's the exact opposite of some of these names, right, that are looking like this. And so, you got to look for those type of charts first because they tend to be the ones that rally quite a bit. So let's see, BNB. Binance had that big move up the other day following some news and pulling in a little bit. Volume is declining on this pullback. If we go to the 4-hour chart, you can see it's really getting quiet here and it's trying to find a low right above that little bit of a breakout point here. This is Binance USD. So just to note, but had that breakout, good volume on that breakout too, and then pulling in a little bit, trying to find a low above that zone. And so if it holds this zone, that's going to be very positive here. And we can see another leg up. This could be a good secondary entry point on Binance. It's very tempting. It's very, very tempting just with the market right now. I'm overly cautious. Let's see here. So BNB, we did Vechain. Let's do ICX. We did not do the ICX just yet. Where are you at? And I'll jump over to coin again. We'll do some other names. Oh, let's see. Here we go. So back to the daily. I'm going to start with the long-term charts first, guys, just to see where we're at in the big picture. And so this one here, it did hit these oversold conditions a couple of days ago, about a week ago, and it really started to find a low there and try to bounce, but we saw a big volume reversal here. I don't like that. Very negative, especially considering it was trying to put a good low in. And so you can see we had this low and was trying to rally. Volume started to come in. Everything was looking good. And then that candle is not a good candle. A big reversal candle with the highest volume that we've seen here, going back basically to back here, right, to early February. So not good on that. On all time frames, that was relatively negative. So you want to wait to see if that one can settle out a little bit here. If it holds this zone here on the lows, that'll be good. But for now, I'll be waiting and being cautious. And it looks like it's trying to break below that area right now. So odds favor, you're going to see some more downside on this one versus BTC. And so that was a major support area that it's testing right now. It's basically just edging below it now. So I'd be cautious on this one, guys. Let's see here. So let's hop over to the CoinE. Charts do look a little different here, guys. So a little bit brighter. I think I just woke up. Let me get a swig of my coffee. I need more coffee. Yeah, let's do Nano. That one. What happened to my music? I had some music going too. Just don't hear me ramble. There we go. Nano, IOTA, Stratus. Yeah, we'll do those. All right. So looking at Nano, I was really liking the way Nano was setting up back here. It was looking pretty nice. Good formation. One of the few names that was kicking the trend in the face and saying, nope, going higher. But broke down. And so let's take a look closer. And here's the 4-hour chart. Let me clear some of my lines so it doesn't get too messy for you guys. So here's it, the 4-hour and the level of support that it's testing right now. You can see it's pretty clear right there. That's going to be the place to hold. And anything below that, I mean, there's not a ton of support at that point. You're looking maybe there for the next level down. So from here down, you're looking at about 3%. That's not too bad. And then maybe another 7-8% below that. And so this one, maybe trying to put a little bit of a bottom in right here, but it's certainly not there yet. I'd be waiting for some upside confirmation. I was really liking the way it was looking here. I mean, look at this volume, right? It was just tons of volume coming in, some good volume there. I actually have a little indicator alert for that bar right there specifically. What was the RSI on that? 51. That would have passed my test. Was a signal line above? No, that would have negated my test there, but almost. That's a good one. But then this bar here is trying to show some good volume action there at the lows. And so we'll see if this one can hold. I'd like Nano. I'm going to keep watching this one, but anything in this market, you got to wait for some reversal action to really start taking place. And we'll see it, guys. When it happens, you know, it's it happens fast, but it happens across the board, and you start to see more sustained moves to the upside over the course of a few days. And so, just got to be patient when you see those initial moves. I mean, it's nothing wrong with taking a shot at it, but you got to be cautious until it looks like across the board we're seeing some sustained moves, and we'll get there. I have a dream. You guys want me to do my I have a dream speech again? I don't think very many people liked it, so it's okay. It was fun. It was all in fun, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's see here. let me pull up my list. I had a few guys that I wanted to show you here. Pulling up another screen here. Bear with me. Yeah, we'll take a look at Ethereum Classic, and I saw some of the other names. IOTA, Waves is one I wanted to look at. All right, let's go. So taking a look at, let's do Ethereum Classic first. Give me one sec here. All right, had to clear my throat. Didn't want to blow up your speakers over there. Okay, so Ethereum Classic having a pretty strong few hours here. Some good volume coming in off the lows. Going to the daily. Now this one had that big pullback following the run up that led to the token airdrop and all that fun stuff. And that just tends to happen, right? It's one of those sell the news things, or even sell before the news, because everybody expects to sell the news. And so that's what I'd be looking at. And so we saw that. We saw a little bit of a double top that played out. Now the question is, have we seen the low? Are we done? So ETC versus BTC here. It's right kind of in the middle of this little congestion area here. The next real strong support is right there. And so we still have some room to go on the downside, RSI wise. And right now, I mean, we've seen a good move here in the last day, but look at where a lot of these moves fail, right? They run right into that 10 EMA, and then they pause. And so, yeah, it's a potential double bottom, and that's not a bad double bottom potential, but you want to wait, right, for some upside confirmation. Or, I mean, this thing could just hit to the next support level right now. But go to the 4 hour. I mean, the 4 hours are looking pretty good though. I mean, this is some good action here. You see that long wick though, the top, with a lot of volume coming in. Even though that's a green bar, that's a lot of sellers showing up there on this bar. Right? They're kind of selling near the top here, and so be cautious with that. Doesn't mean it reverses. I mean, it's just profit taking, considering it went up 16% in 11 hours, and so that's not unusual to see some profit taking. Kind of flagging out right now, maybe a little bit of a bull flag potential pattern being formed here. So I'd be watching. If it continues like that and starts to break above that little trend, then maybe in the short term, you'll see another leg up here. So could be the double bottom. IOTA. I'm going to do IOTA BTC here on Binance, and a lot of volume coming in here. Let's see here. No, it's not too much on the daily chart here, but man, IOTA just really drifting lower, taking a strong hit. And IOTA is one of those where some people really love it, and some people just don't love it at all and don't believe in the project and in some of the technology. But man, this one's really taking a hit. What is it on the USD side now? Man, it's approaching $1 here on IOTA. So we're near a very long-term price support resistance zone. You can see that dollar mark was a big psychological part. Early last year when it came out, right, it rallied right up to $1, give or take. That's where it failed. Then it had big pullback, came all the way down to 34 cents in September, or in October, excuse me, during the last alt winter that we had. And then we had that massive rally. And so kind of in that middle zone. And here we are on the USD chart testing a very key level. And so it'd be interesting to see if this little zone right around $1 on IOTA holds. But That's been quite the pullback here. Maybe we get that shakeout, climactic bottom, and then it's done. So what I'd be looking for. Let's do a fib on this guy. Does this align with any specific values? Ladies and gentlemen, smash that like button. All right. Man, this thing is fully retraced, even below the 786 level. Not good. Not pretty. Not one bit. So we'll say that dollar psychological level holds an iota. Also happens to correspond with a little bit of a support area here on the BTC, cutting below it now, but this is kind of a zone to be looking at there. We'll see if it holds. Iota needs some help here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We just did Monero. It's probably at the top of my list here still, that one and Litecoin in terms of some of these stronger charts versus BTC. And let's see, waves. That's another one I wanted to do. Do waves on the Bittrex. And so waves is dry here in the last couple of days. I'm actually liking the way waves is looking here at the lows. It's trying to establish a pretty decent low. Still hasn't broken the downtrend clearly, but it's trying here in this most recent leg down, trying to break above that. You can see we had a pretty good reversal low, and that's a very strong candle. That's an engulfing bullish candle, especially a reversal candle. And so for those of you that do candlestick analysis and patterns, right, you see all these red candles just down, 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 down. And then you had this candle that undercut the prior body. The wick actually went lower, and then it finished very strong, engulfing all of these prior red candles on high volume, way above average. So that's usually a very positive reversal sign. Then we had that rally pulling in a little bit, creating a higher low, starting to see some more upside action. And so waves may be one of those that's signaling that it's done here for now and wanting to go higher. So got to pay attention to that. That one's looking pretty good. I'm liking the way this one's holding up here. Let's see if it can break that trend line finally that it's been basically hitting as a wall here. But all in all, waves is actually looking pretty good here. How does it look on the daily chart? Man, this one's down way big. But yeah, not too bad in the short term. You can see the RSI here is turning the corner here too and trying to go higher. Let's do Digix DAO. We haven't looked at that one, and that one's just kind of probably the only name strong today here. And man, this was what I was watching is the long-term trend that it's been falling, and it's almost one of those buy the dip ones. This is one of the few buy the dip ones. There's very few things right now that are buy the dip, but this one just has strong moves when it decides to rally. You can see we had that rally here, pullback led to, what was that, 100% or something? 103%. If you take the exact low, it's higher, but no one gets the exact low unless you're lucky, or unless you're very good. But here in the last couple of days, this was up 34% already. I hate to chase anything in this market, so I generally don't, and I will wait for dips or pullbacks before taking any kind of action on something like this. But no doubt, very strong. And here in the last couple 4-hour bars, though, be careful. Look at that. You're seeing some big shadows overhead, some big wicks at the top, as resisted or as RSI is hitting some high 70s, 80s. So just be careful. There's a little bit of profit taking happening here. And all in all, though, it's looking pretty good here in the long term. Not too bad. Not too bad on Digix. Let me see. We'll do Substratum. So let me see. How long have I been going? I've gone about an hour now. Started the stream at just a little over an hour ago. So we will go another 15 minutes or so. I will do a recap on BTC, the levels to watch here the next couple of days, and then we'll go from there. So sub, man, oh man, what's with that volume? Got really smacked here. A lot of red on this daily, pulling in a little bit here. Let me go to the shorter term time frames on sub. So good volume to the upside here. A little bit of a reversal kind of pulling in here. This was one that was just really strong a couple of days ago, but holding up pretty well all around. I mean, it's trying to put in a higher low. This was a very nice, ascending triangle pattern off of the low. Not as strong as when you see one of these after a big move, but it was followed by a pretty decent breakout, pulling in here. Volume's kind of coming in down a little bit, so I'd be watching here. If it can establish another little bit of a low right around here and start to get higher, more specifically start closing above this level on the 4-hour charts, that may be a good secondary entry point on this guy, because it's trying to signal here that it's putting in a pretty good low here. A lot of volume coming in here on this right side as it's finding the low, and that just, look at that low, happened to correspond with that base back here. So not bad, actually. That's a pretty good place to find support all around. That was that last big base that it built before it had that big run up. Basically retraced that entire move down, and it's trying to bounce off of that one. So wow, sub. Omi say go. We haven't done that one. How did I miss that one? I've missed this one. This is another one that, one of the fewer names that's held up relatively well versus BTC here in the last 2 months. Doesn't have this chart, right? Like sub, where you're going from 10 o'clock down to 4 o'clock here on the chart. But this one is a little bit stronger from a relative strength perspective. Obviously, USD chart is taking a hit along with everything else because of the Bitcoin comparative. And so you look at that, Bitcoin's pulling this one in. But this one's trying to establish a much higher low than we had back here in Feb. So let's see if that low holds there on the USD side. But here on the BTC side, this one is right at a key support level. You can see it's hit this point multiple times, undercut it here, rallied, pulled back. And so we'll see if it can hold the line here on BTC. Basically, this 130K level or so. That's the level I'd be watching. But not too bad. Near term, though, no signs of a bottom just yet. We looked like we were trying here, but pulling in. Maybe this is a little bit of a double bottom. RSI is not confirming yet, so I'd be waiting till this one bounced a little stronger. All right, so let's see here. Salt, haven't looked at this one in a while. Salt, not too bad on this recent 4-hour chart here. Looking like it's really starting to see some accumulation show up here at the lows, so that's pretty good. You can see this, look at these big green bars here. I mean, that's what you want to see when something's trying to establish the bottom, right? Very rarely does it do a big V bottom and then just go straight up. Usually, after a big decline, you'll have the bounce and then the pullback and the bounce, but at some point they'll start to range and find a low point, and that's not bad because you can see that one there, some big volume bars as it's trying to establish some support here around that, let's call it 32 level or so. But this one's looking pretty good. Not too bad. I mean, it's still not confirming to the upside, but good signs of accumulation showing up here. And how far up is that point from here? That's about 10%, right, to really break out of this range. But this might not be a bad one to look at. I might actually have to look at this one as a potential when Bitcoin decides to do something. But the way you would do something like this, right, the way I would trade it is when they're range bound and it looks like a good support level is being established, I would rather take it here near the lows as opposed to at the top of the range, because if it decides to break below the range, then my stop would be very tight. It would only be a few percent below the support line, and that'd be a relatively low risk entry point with a decent reward upside. If it breaks out of the range, then obviously you're in near the bottoms. And so when something's ranging like this, it's not a bad entry. Now, if Bitcoin was just stable or going sideways or doing something, then I probably would jump on it. Right now, because of what Bitcoin's doing, I've pretty much been on the sidelines waiting for that to play out. Let's go to BTC here real quick. Let me hop over to the other charts here. Oh, come on. There we go. We're looking on these hourlies. Maybe clear some of this. So this is a good segue, and then I'll go into a few more of those names. I'll do Lisk, and I'll do, let me see, I haven't done Bitcoin Cash. I'll do that one. Steam. All right, so looking at BTC here, if you missed the first part, go into, let me go to a different exchange. Well, Binance is not bad. bear with me if you caught the first part. I'll go fast. This double top still playing out. The downside target of that double top is around that 7,400 mark. And so right now we are close to that, but we're a little bit stretched to the downside. The RSI on the daily, though, has not really hit those oversold levels and could certainly go lower, which is what's keeping me very cautious here. We could see that big washout and then the reversal at that point. So I'm cautious because of that. And that's mainly the reason I haven't taken any trades or any of those other positions. Now, we are stretched a little bit to the downside near term. We could see a little bit of a green day, but then the resistance level to be watching as this thing bounces is around that 87, 88, and then ultimately 9K, which is going to be where that moving average comes down to by the time, if it bounces, right? So that's going to be the real tester. So around 87 and then 9 if it decides to move to the upside. But we could see another leg down, unfortunately. And if we get above 9, that'll really start to turn the corner and make the picture look a little bit more positive. But for now, we're kind of in the middle zone here. There's kind of no man's land. The short-term timeframes, though, are trying. We're seeing a little bit of potential, maybe, but it's way too early to tell on this 4-hour chart. The hourlies, I was looking at a potential inverted head and shoulder. And so that's how it starts, right? The 1 hours starts to turn, and then the 4 hours and the dailies, right? So it's kind of a trickle-up effect. This is not as perfect as I should draw, but a little bit of a head and shoulders potentially forming here. It's probably more up here with the neckline being that $8,300, $8,400 zone. So if it starts to turn above that, especially if volume comes in as it moves higher, then that'll be the first signs that maybe we've put a near-term low or see a little bit of a bounce. But at that point, that's all that's going to be until the daily starts to turn the corner. I'm just going to treat it as a bounce for now. All right, let's get back to the other ones. Bitcoin Cash. So I'll do the BTC equivalent first. Looking at the daily chart of BCH, just not pretty. Still sitting tight. It was trying the other day, but just under pressure versus BTC here. But if you look here at the short-term time frames, the 4-hour, you can see here, it had a pretty good couple of days ago and then pulling in. But there are some signs of a little bit of accumulation showing up here. You just see the big green bars as this thing tries to rally off the lows. And so that's a good sign that maybe, just maybe, it's finding a little bit of a low here. Not confirmed yet, but it's trying. But unfortunately, it's still below that downtrend. And so that could be all it was, is a little bit of a counter trend rally, hits the wall and just still pulling in a little bit. So see how it looks on the USD side. Oh, this one's a little bit stronger than BTC, relatively speaking. So had that low around 870 or so, and seeing a little bit of a pullback. So if we can get back above 940, 950 or so, that'll be pretty positive there. So a little bit stronger near term. All right. Steam. Someone was asking me about Steam the other day, and what do I think in terms of Steam? How will it affect it? And this coin, unfortunately, the coin. I'm not talking about the platform, but the coin. It just feels like every time it rallies, there's just tons of people ready to dump it. I think there's a lot of supply still. Look at the long-term picture of Steam. It's just had this pressure. It had these periods of very strong moves, but all around it's just very much being dumped on, unfortunately. But that being said, the big picture, it's kind of forming a little bit of an equilibrium pattern, right? You can see the higher low and the lower high. And so from a big picture perspective, that's going to be interesting to watch, see how this one starts to play out in terms of will it break up, will it break down? And so that's what I'm watching on Steam longer term. Right now, it's right in the middle of this range. And I mean, it's anyone's guess, right? It could come down lower here and start turning high. So this is more of a longer term. This is the weekly chart. But near term, just, there's no signs of strength near term. It's, it's like everything else, like a lot of these alts. It's trying, but there's no upside confirmation yet on Steam. Yeah, Steam, maybe Steam takes all the action from Facebook and Google, but it's just there's a lot of users on Steam, but not anywhere near the numbers of some of these big players. Let's see here. Let me do it. I think I had a couple more. Oh, Lisk. That was the other one. Let me say before I keep going. There was a couple more. Lisk. Come on, Lisk. So this is interesting to see Lisk trying to find some support. Top of this base, bottom of that base, it's hitting a line there. Daily, very oversold. So maybe Lisk is done. So what I'm looking at here is this little zone. Let me highlight it for you guys. This little zone right around there. And, with the floor being, what is that? Basically the 130 area. And right now it's still below the key moving average on this daily chart. So it still hasn't confirmed. It's had a few times where it's rallied attempts, but it's still trying. But near term, very near term, you're seeing some action show up here, which is good that this volume and strong action showing up right at that support level. And so it's trying to be defended there versus BTC. And maybe we see some more upside on this one. But the big wall to get over first is right there near term. And from here up, that's not too bad. That's only 5% higher from where we're at current levels. That's going to be the first big resistance. If it can get above that, then the momentum will start to shift a little bit more in favor of the bulls. So longer term, probably not a bad place to look at it if you really like Lisk, because it's at a key support level here. And I'd be watching it here, see if it holds this. Speaking of Lisk, let's go to ARK. Haven't looked at ARK in a while. So, man, so that's a big equilibrium pattern forming on that weekly chart. Look at that on ARK, right? We had that all high here. And then on the weeklies, interesting pattern here showing up on the ARK. So I'd be watching that. It's basically at the lower end of that trend line. And so we'll see if it can hold. Now, you can give it a little bit of wiggle room because it's undercut and bounced above before, but interesting pattern here on ARK. So back to the daily. In the near term, trying to form a little bit of a low right above that trend line here. Let's see if it can hold that and start to turn the corner. And if it breaks out the level I'm going to be watching for ARK here, very short term is this, but then resistance is going to be right there. Let me clear my lines and see what that looks like percent wise. So, man, it's like right on the floor here. It needs to hold this support. First resistance level is about 12% higher. And then above that, the next one is 30%. So, man, even just testing be a pretty decent trade on ARK. So that's interesting to watch on that one. So analyze daily. Yeah, right now with the big picture, you got to take a big view back. And I mean, we could look at hourlies all day long, but if the trend is not your friend, there's not a lot to do. You can see how choppy this is. This is the 4 hour, right? It's like, oh, ARK's looking good. No, it's not. ARK's looking good. No, I mean, that's the way it is right now. We got to take a little bit of a step back. When I do my chart scans, if I haven't looked at a chart in a while, generally, if I have, I'll zoom in quickly. But if I haven't looked at a chart in a while, this is the process I go through, right? I'll take the big picture view first. It just kind of calibrates me. Where are we in terms of the bigger trend? And then when I want to start executing and make it a little bit of a trade or an entry, we're looking for some more specific patterns, then I march down the time frames. And so generally 4 hours, the first one I look at, sometimes the 6 hour, but 4 hour. And then I'll look for patterns to show up here. And if I'm seeing some action or some breakout points, let's say I'm wanting to buy ARK and it breaks out right here, then I'll start zooming in and I'll look at the hourlies and I'll really start, then I get into precision there in terms of what precise price and stop zone am I going to be looking at. But first thing is always this, right? Because it's really easy to look at a chart and say, oh man, look at this thing's breaking out. It's having a huge move. And then you go to the daily chart and it's like, well, maybe. Right? It's still in a big downtrend. So you got to look at both. Stratus. So Stratus is one I've been watching for a potential reversal here. In the near term, it was putting in a little bit of a falling wedge. It's starting to poke below the lower end of that right now, but that was getting pretty tight there. So if you look at some of the trend lines here, the big picture trend lines, there's the overhead line that you want to watch first. And then shorter term, right, it was kind of wedging a little bit. You can see that. I mean, if you want to go that far back, but even the near term, right? So a falling wedge. This one's not as steep or as wide. If they're wide and steep, meaning they get really big up here and then very narrow fast, those are stronger. This one's not as strong, but even a falling wedge, right? If you're looking at that upper trend line, the way you measure those is you just take the width of the wedge at the highest point. I'm going to be a little more conservative and not take it all the way back here. And if it breaks out, you project that as your potential target, and that's projecting 50% or so. Now, granted, you also have to look at what are the hurdles it's got to overcome. First resistance is going to be around here, and then the next one in and around there. So it's not going to go straight there. It could just do a quick 15% or 25%, 40%. So those are the levels. If I was trading it and it broke out, I'd be looking at these levels to either raise a stop or take some profits along the way. But this one's looking pretty interesting here. Bitcoin, man, this was such a high flyer last year and kind of teetered off. You guys still really liking Vert? By the way, just curious if thoughts on BTC. Are any of you guys mining this? I went on mute again there. Give me 1 sec. Nope, no Vert. Yeah, I mean it is a fork of Litecoin. Is it a better Litecoin? Maybe. Unfortunately, it doesn't have as much user adoption as Litecoin. All right, so looking at the Vert. Man, this thing is due. Yeah, you're right. It's due for a bounce. I mean, look at RSI on this bad boy is 22, 21. Man, oh man. That's on the daily. Zooming in, near-term picture, 4-hour just continues to grind lower the last couple of days. I mean, there's just no signs of a reversal. This was a pretty good volume attempt initially, but just kind of teetered off here. So not a lot of there's nothing to do yet, but yeah, it's definitely hitting these oversold levels. In terms of a base, I mean, it's basically here, so could be a place to bounce from, but there's nothing telling me that it's strong yet. EOS, I didn't do EOS yet. And then I saw your question on NEO. So I will go back to NEO. I did OMG already, and I didn't do NAV. That's one I want to look at. So let's take a look at NAV next. EOS. Did you guys see that video on blockchain? It was pretty funny. He did a thing on EOS. What's his name? Promoting EOS with his hat and talking about his wedding. That was funny, I gotta say. It was kind of dumb though. Anybody who was new to blockchain or that was their like first introduction to crypto, that video just set them back a few years. They were like, "Oh yeah, see, I told you, blockchain is bad, crypto's bad." So looking at EOS, let me do a fib on this first to see how far back it's come from that big rally. We're kind of so the 50, just so you guys know, the 50 is not exactly a Fibonacci retracement number. It's not a Fibonacci sequence, but it's in here because it's a popular number in terms of where sometimes it just comes back halfway, right? But it's not an official fib, which is generally why I don't keep it on my numbers here. But anyway, 382 failed. Right now we're above 618, which 618, interestingly enough, happens to be this base here from that prior little bit of a flag that it put in before it broke out. And so interesting on this one. Thanks, Devil. Talk to you next time, man. That's what I'd be looking at on EOS for a potential next level. Now it's approaching, I mean, it's right here in this zone right here right now. So it could bottom anywhere around here. I've been looking for a bottom on EOS here. You can see it's been hitting these oversold conditions for a couple of weeks now. Now it could stay here for a while, but I've been looking for a potential bounce reversal, but I'm waiting for that upside confirmation and just hasn't been able to clear this moving average. It's tried a few times and it even looked like it was about to break out here, but then just had another leg down. And so until we see that, there's probably not a lot to do yet, but just keep in mind that it is approaching a key level here on the chart. So it's going to be interesting to see if this support level holds. That's a strong support level. And if it doesn't hold, it's not going to be a pretty sign for EOS, unfortunately. But the fact that it's just oversold, I'm leaning towards maybe we see a little bit of a bounce here soon. But on the 4 hours, not seeing it yet. It's just kind of still leaning bearish. So got to wait for some positive signs on EOS first. Let's do NEO. Going back, I did cover NEO. NEO USD, looking for potential entries. I mean, right now, you're testing this low back here where we saw a lot of support come in. And so if this guy's going to bounce, we want to see it hold this low. This is going to be the area to be watching here. It's had quite the pullback here in recent weeks very quickly, and it's due for a bounce, no doubt. Versus BTC, unfortunately, it's kind of just middle of the road here. Came right back to this little bit of the last base, you want to call it. It's not really more of a base, more of a little bit of a flag that it put in before the last big run up. And so we're testing that right now. And if that's probably not a bad place to look at it here, because if that held and they defended that, then maybe we see some bouncing from that point on the chart versus BTC. So NEO is getting close, I think, for at least a little bit of a bounce, counter trend reversal, but that's the support level I'm watching. Is if it breaks that, could see another sharp leg down. It's pretty oversold though, near term. Digibyte. I'll do Digibyte. Yeah, let's look at that one. Do a couple more, guys. I've been going for almost an hour and a half now, and appreciate everybody joining and tuning in, but I will drop it off here in about 7 minutes or so. So looking at Digibyte. Man, Digibyte had a pretty good move off the low a couple of days ago, and I thought, hey, maybe it's finally ready. That was a nice move. Tons of volume came in, too. It's just unfortunate to see it peter out here a little bit. But if you look at the daily chart, just no confirmation yet, right? That was a nice move in the very short term. But in the big picture, just it's not there yet, right? And you can see that trend line is really going to be the test. I mean, yeah, you may not get to the exact low, and that's okay, because when it finally turns and starts taking out that trend line, the move will really start to accelerate. Until then, everything is suspect. Everything is high risk, right? You get these little counter trend rallies like we saw back here, right? You saw that very strong volume coming in there. Wrong arrow. That. But, until then, you got to wait for some upside confirmation. If it would have pulled in here, this is what I was looking for on this guy here. It had that nice move up, so it gets on the radar. Then it has a little bit of a pullback. Had it held right here like it was doing, and then gone above that line, that would have been very positive, right? That would have been a good signal. Unfortunately, it didn't. It's breaking down, so you just got to wait this one out. Sia. So this one, I don't know. I mean, I liked the project, the concept, but there's just in other platforms that may do something like this. So you got to wonder if is this going to be around long term? I mean, they got a good team, they got a lot of development. They're actually, they're trying to get the work done, but This one, storage coin, right? There's a few of those where now there's more competition. Bluez or whatever the one is. So there's a few of those coming out, but it just is it is it ever going to come back? That's the big question. I am not a fan of this one anymore as much as I was back here, mostly because of the fundamentals, right? The shift in some of the other names and some of those things. So this one just looks really weak. Obviously, if you're a long-term holder, if I was still holding it at this point, you might as well hold it, right? You've already written it all the way down. But I guess it depends on how much you got and all that fun stuff. But I don't have any of this right now at the moment. Zcoin. And Zcoin, what's up with that? Big reversal there on Zcoin. How's it look on Bittrex or on Binance? Yeah, a little bit of a reversal. So those long wicks. I mean, clearly it's a lower volume name. I like this one from a privacy coin perspective. I've been watching this one. Oh, speaking of which, I'll do NAV. Sorry. But Zcoin is one to look at for sure longer term. I think you should be on the radar. Watching here, I mean, it's kind of retraced this whole move. It's right back at a key support level. And so if this one's going to bounce, I'd like to see it in and around this zone, hold, and start to show some reversal action here. So got to pay attention to Zcoin now. But so far, still looking a little bit weak, pulling in. Not a lot of buy volume showing up yet. It looks like it wants to break down further. NAV. Look at NAV here. Let me zoom out first. I'll go to NAV on Bittrex. Get a little more history on the chart here. So NAV has had those pumps in the past, right? It's had the big runs. Another privacy name had a big run here. And on the big picture, it's just kind of forming a little bit of a, you get this equilibrium pattern potentially forming on the weekly. This is a big double top, unfortunately, but I mean, it's a little bit lower. Right now, we're towards the low end of the range. Not a lot of volume coming in. You see the buy volume showing up on the way up. And so we'll see how this one can bottom out here. Support levels, it's still ways down. Right now, to me, it looks like this is just breaking down from a big descending triangle type pattern. You can see you had the pull down, the bounce, pull down, bounce, and it's just kind of pulling in further. So we're in the middle of the zone here. It's very oversold near term, 25. So many of these alts are looking that way. And so I'm thinking they at least go sideways, if not bounce a little bit here soon. And so many of these alts are just, man, they're really taking the pain here versus BTC especially. But NAV, smaller cap, what's NAV's market cap here, by the way? $69 million. $1 NAV. Anybody? $1.11. Do I hear 112? Do I hear 112? 113? Going. On. All right, let's see here. Zcoin, $147 million. So a little bit on the higher end. All right. Let's do a few more and go wrap it up here. I did Ethereum Classic, so apologize. Won't do that. Did Cardano. Taking another leg down. So I won't do too much in depth here. I think Cardano's due for a bounce, but man, it broke down from this support, unfortunately, and next level down. See where it goes. Pivx. How is Pivx doing? Speaking of privacy coins, Pivx. Yeah, a lot of these are hitting these key levels. So many of these have retraced the entire move, and they're right back. See if they hold. See if they can hold these. So let's take a look at the BTC here one more time. So kind of range bound. We're trying to establish a low on the very shorter term time frames. The 1 hours, the daily 4 hours, nowhere near showing any kind of upside yet. This daily still has, what is that, 6 hours left to go before this closes. So if this can turn green with a little bit of a wick, we need to see way more volume though. But if we can turn this green, that would look positive in the near term. Maybe we see a little bit of a bounce, but I think that's all for now. It's just a bounce. That's how I'm going to be treating it, just because we're kind of in the middle here. This could go a little bit lower from the RSI, the double target downside projection was around 74, 75. Now, granted, we can say that hit it overnight, right, 7,600 mark. And so maybe we found support there, but we have not confirmed yet. So I am approaching everything with caution still, looking at the 4-hour chart, still living below the moving average, bouncing into that, seeing big volume reversal to the downside. So nothing confirming there yet. On the hourlies, it's trying. And so that's what I'm watching here on the hourly. Maybe a little bit of a inverted head and shoulder pattern type of forming here. The level to watch on the breakout, 83, 8,400 or so, especially if volume can come in. That'd be a good first positive sign. But until then, we just got to wait and see. I think we're due for a bounce. We've had some pretty good selling here for a few days now. It's a little bit stretched, but hey, markets do what the markets want to do. So why do most alts follow BTC? That's a good question. Until we see broader adoption of other trading pairs, right? Most alts will trade in BTC. And so when you're trading and hodling, you know, one of the questions is always, okay, if I'm going to be in the crypto space, obviously Bitcoin is the biggest, the most influential name in the markets. And it's going to lead the way for a number of reasons. But when you want to enter alts, most of the time, you got to come in through BTC or F, right? Because a lot of these don't trade in USD pairs or anything like that. And so they're, I wouldn't say a derivative, but they are not secondary. What's the word I'm looking for? I mean, they lead, Bitcoin leads them because of that. One, because of the dominance. I mean, Bitcoin is just the dominant player in the market, right? And it's the crypto, right? It's $138 billion. It's like when you look at the stock market, and Apple and Amazon will tend to lead the tech stocks. And if Apple and Amazon and Google have bad days in the stock market, the other ones will tend to see some selling because they're bellwethers, right? They're just kind of the bigger name. And so you see a similar effect with the alts. And unfortunately, the alts are high beta. And that's good and bad, meaning when Bitcoin falls 3%, 5%, the alts will magnify the downside, and vice versa. When the market's strong, Bitcoin goes up 10%. A lot of these alts are up 15, 20%. And so that's just the way it is at this point in our ecosystem. Will it change later? It probably will. But for now, the way the tokens and the trading exchanges work, BTC is very much the bellwether. All right. What kind of questions are we allowed to ask? Anything you want. I will choose what I limit to answer, though. All right. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you all joining on another live edition of the Node Investor. I could probably just keep going. You know, I could do like a 6-hour live stream if you want, but my voice probably wouldn't be able to handle it right now. So my long-term bags, I'll tell you a few. I mean, mostly, especially lately, I mean, it's been very conservative. And so Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, right? The biggies still hold them. But you know, the thing is with these, I'm working on something that I'm going to start publishing, the Node Folio. And I will not list my percent gains. I know there's some newsletters out there that are like, well, we told you about Ethereum in 2016 and our newsletter is up 20,000%. And it's like, okay, that's not really fair, right? Like, so I'm going to list the gains, percent gains, losses, basically starting when I start publishing it. But, you know, that's going to be it. I mean, it's going to be the biggies. And then as I make changes to it, I'll do that. I hold a bunch of smaller names, but they represent a relatively, you know, combined small percent of my portfolio. So it's not huge. And, you know, with the sell-off over the last couple months, have been scaling back on a lot of these alts because of that. So, but right now it's primarily the bigger, more conservative, quote unquote, conservative names. I don't hold Ripple. I got a little bit of Bcash, Bitcoin or Ethereum, Litecoin, mentioned that. I'm looking to add some of these names down here in this list. Don't have any NAM right now or Stellar, but there's a few names that I'm really liking. I want to hold. I still got some Omise Go, but you got to remember too, like some of these positions I've had for a really long time, and so they're still way up. And I've been trading around a core position, so I've lightened up on some of these. Some 0x, some Decred, some other stuff in here. Got some Dragon. So there's a few names still hodling, but also moved some to cash because when the market's down, you want to buy a little bit more at the lower end. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a stream. I appreciate everybody joining. Smash that like button. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care, everyone.